no evidence for a video-inspired protest, then where'd the false narrative start? Started with you, Madam Secretary. But what troubles me more is I think you knew the truth. I want to show you a few things here. Within 24 hours, you had a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. You told him this: we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Let me read that one more time. We know, not we think, not it might be, we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. State Department experts knew the truth. You knew the truth, but that's not what the American people got. And again, the American people want to know why.
Well, I think if you look at the statement that I made, I clearly said that it was an attack, and I also said that there were some who tried to justify it on the basis of the video, Congressman. And I think
but real quick, calling it an attack is like saying the sky's blue. Of course, it was an attack.
Well,
we want to know the truth.
In moments, we'll be joined by Sean Smith's mother, Patricia. But we begin tonight with Mark Thiessen, a Fox News contributor and former chief presidential speechwriter for President George W. Bush, who watched these hearings today. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Megyn.
I understand Hillary Clinton's later defense today at the hearing, which was, I still believe, she says, I still believe that the video played some role. But I heard no explanation from her as to if that was her belief, if that's her belief today, why she told the Egyptian Prime Minister, we know that this attack had nothing to do with the film. We know it was a planned attack and not a protest. Why did she say that if, to this day, she believes it was about a video?
Because she doesn't believe it was about a video, because she's covering up what we weren't supposed to hear. What Congressman Jordan did today was give us the smoking gun that we were never supposed to see, which is the internal thoughts that she had in her communications with her family, with foreign leaders, telling them this was an al-Qaeda attack, this was a pre-planned attack. I mean, she, at the same time that she was going out and saying this was about an inflammatory video, she said there that she said it was an attack. She never used the word terrorism. She never used the word al-Qaeda. At the same time she was doing that, almost simultaneously, she sent an email to her daughter, Chelsea, saying two of our officers were just killed by an attack with a group affiliated with al-Qaeda. She told foreign leaders this. And this is the problem with this, Megyn, is that I think that the American people would not have blamed them for Benghazi if they had stepped forward, if she and President Obama had stepped forward and said, America has come under attack by al-Qaeda on the anniversary of September 11, 2001. We are going to get the people who did this. And I think Americans would have rallied to them. But they didn't do that. They lied about it. And that's what I think is unforgivable.
Mark, here's what she says about that, basically that email to her family. She says that the night of the attack, al-Qaeda made, this al-Qaeda affiliated group made a claim of responsibility that they then pulled back the next day. And she says as the intel coming to her and everyone else in the administration changed, so too did their message. And yet what she says to the Egyptian leader is, we know. We know. She's coming out. Already the messages were conflicting because she's saying one thing to him and she's saying something else publicly. But she didn't say, we believe and we still have to investigate.
No, she didn't. And the truth is that they didn't have intel coming in saying that it was a protest. The people on the ground who saw it happen were telling them there was no protest. They knew from the very beginning there was no protest. And how does that explain then Susan Rice going out the following Sunday when it was absolutely clear that it had been a protest, going out and saying on that there was no pre-planned attack, when a few days earlier she had told the Prime Minister of Egypt it was a pre-planned attack.
And it wasn't just Susan Rice. I mean, listen to Jay Carney. Okay, this is Jay Carney at the White House. This is September 19th. Now, this is... No, wait. I just want to make sure. Okay, is this a soundbite where he's talking about we have no information, it was a pre-planned attack? Just want to make sure, because I have like 50 Jay Carney soundbites queued up. All right, they're getting it. It was wrong. See, I knew. Okay, September 14th. That makes sense. Listen to what Jay Carney said, September 14th.
We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack.
No information to suggest it was a pre-planned attack. Look at Hillary's email. We know the attack in Libya was a planned attack. not a protest. We know the attack was planned, not a protest. And he was saying, as of September 14th, days later, we have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack. And here's another one. This is Jay Carney saying we have no information that this was not in reaction to a film. Watch.
We don't have and did not have concrete evidence to suggest that this was not in reaction to the film.
No information that it wasn't about a film. And this is Hillary days earlier. We know the attack had nothing to do with the film. Mark, this is what drives people crazy. It drives them crazy. You know, why not just come out and lay it out? This is what makes people distrust not just these politicians, but Washington, but the administration, but anybody who even raises their hand and testifies under oath, believing you're not being straight with me.
No, that's exactly right. And this is why, I mean, and what Jay Carney said is the exact opposite of what Hillary Clinton said today in her hearing, which is, according to her narrative, initially they thought it was a terrorist attack. Then they had some other information coming in suggested it might have had something to do with the video, which is why they hedged. Jay Carney said they had no information coming in saying it had to do that it was a pre-planned terrorist attack. So that's a complete opposite story. I mean, the problem here is you're exactly right. It's a question of trust. I think Americans would have rallied around this president. Look, we just went through a thing with Donald Trump where Donald Trump tried to blame 9/11 on George W. Bush. And the American people don't buy that. They don't blame George W.
Directly, anytime he thought there was something of importance, the people with whom he worked, the people who were around him and with him, they very well understood the dangers that they were confronting.
Mrs. Clinton also testified today that she personally chose Chris Stevens, a career diplomat, to be her first point man for the Libyan opposition during the 2011 revolution, and then as her ambassador. And she spoke about the deep personal loss when he was murdered. Yet there is no record she spoke to him in the year leading up to the attack.
Did you ever personally speak to him after you swore him in May? Yes or no, please?
Yes, I believe I did.
But and when was that?
I don't recall.
Because there are no call logs with him. We have no record that you had any conversations with the ambassador after you swore him in and before he died, and you were his boss.
Mrs. Clinton also testified that every possible step was taken to help the Americans in Benghazi that night. But at that time of the attack, Mrs. Clinton had very limited communication with the president and his senior military advisors who were responsible for any attempted rescue.
Did you meet with the president that night?
I talked with the president. I did not meet with him.
How many times did you talk to the president?
I talked to the president that evening. That was the only time I talked with him on the 11th.
Did you meet with Secretary Panetta?
No, I did not.
Did you speak to Secretary Panetta?
The next day.
Did you talk with General Dempsey?
The next morning I did.
We also learned today that there were 600 separate requests from Stevens and the group in Benghazi for additional security in that year leading up to the attack, but virtually nothing was done. And on the day of the assault, the terrorists walked in unencumbered, set fire, and killed Stevens and Sean Smith as well, Megan.
Wow. Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Joining me now to react, Robert Zimmerman, a Clinton supporter and DNC. After she claims they now knew it was a terrorist attack and had nothing to do with the video. Listen.
No matter how offensive such a video is, there is no justification for violence. There is no justification for attacking and killing innocent people. In this case, in Benghazi, innocent Americans, including an ambassador who had done so much to help the Libyan people.
And with all that being said, from Jay Carney and all the information that was out there.
15.
Seems to me that night you had three options, Secretary. You could tell the truth, tell them it was a terrorist attack. You could say, you know what, we're not quite sure, but you picked a third option. You picked the video narrative, and you did it because Libya was supposed to be, pointed out, this great success story for the Obama White House and the Clinton State Department.
That was Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan pressing Secretary Clinton during today's Benghazi hearing, which just wrapped up a few minutes ago. The congressman joins me now. Congressman, thank you for being here tonight. And so I know you've been busy, but we've been discussing for the better part of the last half hour that email that you spent most of your time discussing with Hillary Clinton, where she says to the Egyptian prime minister, we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest.
Right.
Is that a smoking gun in your view?
Well, it certainly puts to bed this whole narrative that they ran with, and it all started with her. So, you know, you can't say one thing publicly to the American people, to the taxpayers, and then say something else different privately. And that's what she did. And the truth was what she said privately. All the evidence supported a terrorist attack. None of the evidence pointed to this video-inspired narrative.
Okay, but let me stop you there.
But
let me stop you there. What she said to you today was, that night, we had information, we had a claim of responsibility from an al-Qaeda affiliated group. The next morning, they retracted that claim. So things changed.
Yeah, but it still doesn't mean a video caused it. I mean, that's the point. It wasn't the film, right? There was no protest, there was no demonstration, there was no video-inspired protest, no video-inspired demonstration. Chris Stevens walked the diplomat to the front gate 1 hour before the attack happened. He didn't report any protest because there wasn't one.
She said, let's just have the back and forth because the audience didn't get to see it. But she said in response to that, that she did believe it was a video, that others believed it was a demonstration caused by a video, and it wasn't until they got to review the security tapes from the consulate on September 18th that the security footage arrived at CIA saying there were no protests, that they revisited their earlier assessment.
Well, then, Megyn, why'd you tell a different story to the Egyptian prime minister? Why'd you tell a different story to her family? And why did her public story stay the same throughout the entire week, right? It stayed the same. On the 14th, we did another one. Jay Carney says it wasn't a pre-planned attack. The same day the experts in Libya said it was a well-planned attack. Exactly opposite statements. And that happens to be the same day, by the way, that we had the now famous talking points that Ben Rhodes authored, where he said it is a video. We want to focus on that because we can't have it be a broader policy failure. You know why they couldn't have it be a broader policy failure? Because they were 56 days before an election, and this was a key theme. That's the whole point, and the American people understand it, but that email, or excuse me, that call to the Egyptian prime minister makes it crystal clear.
Well, let's talk about that because, you know, our information is that you guys did not have that in prior investigations. Why haven't we heard about that or seen that exchange she had prior to today?
Because that's the pace of this State Department and this administration in getting us the documents. Mr. Gowdy's been very clear about. The chairman's been, if they would help us get the information that we should have had a long, long time ago, that would make this investigation go so much faster. Here's one other thing that happened. We asked Secretary Clinton, we know the FBI is looking at your server. If they find information that deleted emails or whatever, if they find emails that are relative to our investigation, will you get those to us, or will you allow a neutral third party, like a retired federal judge, to look at that? And you know what she said? She wouldn't agree to that. She wouldn't agree to that.
Okay, but listen,
we want to get to the truth. Help us out.
That begs the question of what she's been saying all along, and what Kevin McCarthy said. I mean, he is on record, and it could not be much clearer that he thinks this is a partisan hit job meant to bring down her poll numbers. I know you on the committee say it's not true, but he's not the only one. Some other guy affiliated with the committee came out and suggested that's the case. And so a lot of the American people tonight are looking at this saying it's in one ear and out the other because this is about presidential politics and not about Benghazi.
What did you see partisan from the questions we asked? We're trying to get to the truth. Look, I disagree with what some of my colleagues have said. I think that was wrong. I don't think that's the focus. It never's been the focus. The chairman's been clear. We've been clear. And you could see this hearing today for yourself. What was partisan about that? What's partisan about she telling the Egyptian prime minister one thing and telling the American people something else? That's not partisan. That's her statements. She started the whole video narrative at 10:08, the night of the attacks, an hour and a half before the attacks were over. She tells the American people it was a video inspired. She references that. She starts that narrative at 10:08 with Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty still on the roof of that annex fighting for their lives. That's the message we did. That's not partisan. That's about the facts.
Congressman Jim Jordan, thank you, sir.